actually give you some value on this podcast outside of me ranting on technical details.
It's all bad.
Cheating, using swinging and momentum and and that's a thing. And it's just like the partial range of motion. It all stems from the same tree of ego. The only reason to cheat, if you really think it through and really do your research, is ego. There's almost never a good time to cheat. And boy, oh boy, do I get some, clap back for this on social media when I say, I post my little text post and I say, cheating is probably stupid and wrong. Gee whiz, you get 40 comment thread replies of, well, what about this pro bodybuilder? He does it, blah, blah. What about the biomechanics of eccentric loading? A lot of times folks just haven't really thought it through that much. At the end of the day, man, cheating is a real stupid idea. Because if you look at it just from a base level of analysis, let's just take the curl. If you're swinging during curls, someone could ask, Asperger's kid at the gym who just says what he thinks. He could be like, why are you training your glutes? I thought it was arm day. And you'd be like, well, you see, the glutes, they help the, he's right. He's fucking right. Like, you training biceps, just train your fucking biceps. And also there's like a tracking problem where it's like, I got, 13 reps today with 95 pounds. Well, how many of those reps were decent reps? I don't know. Like, they sort of got shittier all the way through. And the next week you get 14 reps with 100 pounds. Did you get stronger? Maybe, or maybe your technique was shittier. So if you have swinging, cheating bullshit, you don't even know when to cut off to count. It's so funny too, because like some bodybuilders, a lot will post videos of them doing some curls or some whatever lift, tricep extensions. And the technique gets progressively worse. And then at some point, which to me seems rather arbitrary at times, they decide that the set is over. So it'll be like tricep extension, and then they'll stop and they'll go, oh, that was tough. And I'm like, I want to be like, why did you stop then versus 5 reps from then? Because I say you reached technical failure 10 minutes ago. And what is really the cutoff there, right? And if you don't have a standard cutoff of good technique, not only are you making excessive amount of fatigue to muscles that have nothing to do with the fucking tricep extension or the curl. Like if your abs are sore after triceps, Jesus Christ, or if your fucking glutes and lower back are sore after curls, what are you doing? And another one is injury risk. You're taking an isolation movement and exposing it to eccentrically controlled forces that are way higher than your biceps. Like if your biceps can't lift the weight, you're expecting them to maintain structural integrity when they return the weight. And there's real examples of this, like Callum von Moger, I think, who did that like partner curl with somebody else. I forget who, maybe it was Sebum. And they did like 405 pounds on a cheat curl together, and he fucking tore his bicep. Like, what fucking exactly was the point of that?
Right.
Cool, but at the expense of your fucking job, you get paid to look like you do. Now you're tearing muscles to do what? And people say, well, that's crazy, but a little bit of cheating is good. And it's one of my favorite things to do. And it doesn't feel good to do. It's almost like seductively. It feels like a sin. I don't really like to do it, but I end up doing it anyway. Like scrolling at Insta for too long and you're not sleeping. Like you want to do it, but you shouldn't. Is asking people like a series of investigative questions with questioning their assumptions. They say, well, a lot of cheating is bad, but a little is good. And you go, interesting, why? And a lot of times what they present at you is notions, which philosopher and economist Thomas Sowell would call notions, ideas that aren't even structured in a way that makes them hypotheses. They're not even propositions about how the world works. They're just kind of like intellectual vomit. You got to take the vomit. You get a few razors here and you clump it into something that you chop up and maybe looks like something, but they say things and then you're like, oh, can you explain that? And a lot of times when they have, when they don't have moments of honesty, which is totally understandable, social media is kind of toxic sometimes. They'll be like, oh, fuck you. You don't know shit. You're an asshole. You look like shit. Okay, respect. I get it. We all get offended. So do I. But sometimes in moments of honesty, especially in DMs, they'll be like, man, huh. Well, I guess I really don't. I don't know why. I guess maybe you're right. Maybe there's no good reason to cheat. And then there it is. Yep. So that's my thoughts on cheating.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I've seen in a lot of programs is they'll program in, let's say you do 12 to 15 reps, good technique, full range of motion of it, and then it'll tell you to do an additional 5 to 10 cheating reps after that. And to me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because I feel like it just increases your risk of injury immediately after you just did an actual good set. and your stimulus to fatigue ratio all of a sudden just went to shit because you had a good stimulus to fatigue ratio because you did 12 to 15 good reps, and now all of a sudden you want to make it that much worse, and it never made sense to me.
Like, my lower back still feels good, I see. I won't have this on my watch. Take that. But yeah, at the end of the day, one of the funny, like, little sort of Thomas Sowell style retorts is, why not just do another set of good technique? And gee whiz, most people just don't have an answer for that shit. And then sometimes they'll say, well, we want to actually take the opportunity to overload the muscle and continue to have it close to failure. And then why don't you just do a drop set? Instead of curling 100 with shitty technique for 15 reps, 10 of which were good, 5 which sucked, why don't you stop at 10, take the weight from 100 to go to 60, and then do 5 really good reps, same accomplishment of continuing the exercise into the failure zone, but without all the risks and downsides, and the ability to track it, because then you could say 100 x 10, comma, 60 x 5, parentheses, no rest. And then next week you can do 11,7 reps with 160 or whatever. But if you're cheating, you really just don't know what's going on. And one last thing before I shut the fuck up finally. Cheating can put you into this position where, look, we all care about numbers, right? Like, let's be honest. We all care about like how much we leg press and fucking bench and squat and curl, even fucking lateral raise. And if you cheat and you start cheating and your technique gets wacky and you're writing down the numbers you're doing, like, guys will even say, like, I handled the 80s today for an incline. Like, what the fuck does handled mean? Like, accomplished a number of sequential good technique reps? Like, well, none of that really happened. It's like saying you talk to a supermodel at a club. Like, there's a difference between, like, she was like, yo, when are we leaving? Versus like, hello. And she's like, get the fuck away from me. And you're like, I'm successfully talked. That's a conversation. That counts. Like, aliens were watching, be like, he's conversing with her. He succeeded. Like, at the end of the day, it puts you into the position of you wrote down 315 for 3 in the bench, but what you really did is 315 for 1, and then 2 of them were dog shit where your buddy's putting his balls in your face and you're doing half reps. That means next week you're going to try 4, or you're going to try 320 for 3, but you never did 315 for 3. And then what's going to happen? Your technique's going to degrade even more and more and more. And at some point you realize you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And you're going to renorm the technique. You're decently thinking about it, and you go back to square one, where you go back to 275 pounds instead of 315. You do a real good set of 5 reps, and then you can one of 2 choices. You can continue to try to make good reps happen so that you only need to renorm once every several years, because sometimes all the technique or mind-muscle connection at least gets away from all of us. Or you can just do the same stupid mesocycle over again, where you go 275, 295, 315, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and you need to renorm back down. And it's all a clusterfuck. So another great thing about good technique is you don't have to worry about, like, am I really doing this? And you don't have to get addicted to doing heavier loads that you actually never did to begin with.